Hello lovely people, my favourite time of the year has come round again. It is non-fiction November and I just thought I'd run through my TBR of what I'm planning to read.
Sophie Vlogs.
Non-fiction November, if you haven't heard of it before, is a reading initiative that is hosted by Olive over at Book Olive. The general idea is just to get people reading more non-fiction, so if you don't read any, pick up a non-fiction book. I read a fair bit of non-fiction. I think probably about a third of my reading is non-fiction, which is a lot more than it was when I first started doing non-fiction November, so that's really nice to see. I will leave a link down below to Olive's channel with the video with all of the details that you need if you want to take part, but essentially they always pick 4 words, and I've sort of used them as a springboard. I think I have connected to some words more than others, but I just thought I would run through what I'm hoping to read this month. So the first word this year is collection. I've gone down 2 different paths for this. One of these is quite an obvious one, I think. I've thought of collection as, in this case, a collection of essays. So this is Pandora's Jar, Women in the Greek Myths by Natalie Haynes. I mainly know Natalie Haynes as a fiction writer. I've never read any of her fiction, but this is her first book that I've picked up because this is non-fiction essays about women from Greek mythology. And what Natalie Haynes is doing is she's kind of pointing out that a lot of these women we've always consumed through the interpretations of men and male classicists and that kind of thing. So she's really she's starting off with Pandora and working her way through a couple of different female characters from Greek mythology and kind of just putting the lens back on them, examining some of the ways in which some of these ideas we have of them have developed, like how correct to the original sources are those ideas and that kind of thing. When I was at university doing classical studies, I did an essay all about Pandora, so I was really interested in this specifically because of that connection, but also I love these kind of things anyway, so I'm going for this as a collection of essays. I'm really looking forward to this. I've been meaning to get to it for a long time. And after that, I've kind of gone down a route of collections, things you could collect, things that some people have collections of. So this one is Spirals in Time, The Secret Life and Curious Afterlife of Shells by Helen, because people do have shell collections, and this is a book that I picked up on a whim in a second-hand shop because I just thought it sounded really interesting. So Helen is really just exploring where shells come from, the creatures who make the shells. I'm expecting to learn a lot about that, and then also just shells and their role in culture, how did some things associated with them develop, all these kind of things. I just think there is this kind of type of book that is out there that is let's look at X thing, whether it be shells, mushrooms, flowers, there's just a whole world of natural history writing that I don't feel like I've really explored. So I think this is going to be really interesting and hopefully very illuminating. The next word is industry, and I've also picked 2 books for this. So the first one, I've gone down industry as being very industrious, like a person who creates lots of things. And so for this one, I've gone for The Paper Garden. Mrs. Delany begins her life's work at 72 by Molly Peacock. Molly Peacock is a poet, so this is a non-fiction book, I believe, but also has aspects of poetry in it. And we're looking at Mrs. Delany, who essentially is this woman who had this amazingly full life, and then at 72 she started making these paper flowers, anatomically correct recreations of flowers just made through paper, and she made this immense collection of them, and they're still on show in museums now. They're all very much accurate as to what these flowers are, and so this is the thing that she is famous for, and she's famous for making so many of them. But I just find it so fascinating that she didn't even start doing that until she was 72. I love books that sort of explore older women and very much show you the truth that is that at no point do you stop being a person, do you stop developing. So this sounds really interesting, and I'm really excited to learn more about Miss Delany and her collection as a whole. And then my second book kind of taps into being industrious, also kind of taps into an industry, in this case rugby. So this is Belonging, the autobiography by Alun Jones. Alun Wynne Jones is a very famous Welsh rugby player. He is one of the most capped players. He is captain of the Welsh team. I like rugby. My family is very into rugby. My partner is very into Welsh rugby. So he is a person with whom I am familiar, but I don't know a lot about him. And I don't know a lot about rugby as a whole. I read Gareth Thomas's autobiography, which was really interesting because I was interested in that because he was the first out gay rugby player I think he was playing in the English League at the time, even though he is Welsh himself. So I was interested in that not for the rugby angle, but for his journey with his sexuality. Whereas I'm interested in this to hear about his experiences in rugby as an industry, like playing for Wales, playing for leagues, that kind of thing. And so I think this is hopefully going to be one. I have some quite big books on this thing that might be a bit heavy, so I'm hoping this will be like a light, lovely one. And I'm just really looking forward to finding out more about Alun Wyn-Jones. The next word they chose was style, and this is definitely one that I struggled with because I'm trying to do this based on books that I already own, and I'm trying to not buy any books. So although there are lots of things that style makes me think of, and I can think of types of books that might tie in, of books that I actually own, it's slightly more limited. But I am going to look at A Very British Murder by Lucy Worsley. This was a book, and she also did a TV show of it that I have caught a bit of. But the angle I'm going for is because it's a very British murder. She's looking at some crime history, I think, which is not a field that I've read a huge amount about in the first place, but also because it's this angle of like, well, what makes these murders British, and how are you defining British? What is stylistically, what are the associations you're attaching to that? So I'm kind of linking it in that sort of like stylized murder kind of way. I don't know. I'm not sure about this one because I don't read a lot of crime history, but Lucy Worsley is a historian who I really like, so I'm kind of counting on my like of her to like carry me through and for it to be something interesting. The final word is treatment. Both books I've chosen for this, I've chosen for very similar reasons, and that's kind of looking at treatment of people in history. So, the first one of those is The First Ladies of Rome, The Women Behind the Caesars by Annelise Freisenbruch. This is looking at the women behind a lot of the Caesar dynasty, and how they're often sort of brushed off or like characterized in certain ways. And this book is really like looking at like how true are these characterizations, how true are these ideas we have on them, who were these women, what were their roles, how influential were they. I was always more of a Greek than a Rome person when I was studying classical studies, so I'm always interested in reading books that sort of like bulk out my Rome knowledge, because I do think it is limited. So I think there's going to be people in this that I'm familiar with, but I'm really excited to have my view on them challenged. And then the final book is Empress Dowager Cixi by Chang. I really liked Chang's memoir, Wild Swans, which was looking at 3 generations of her family in China. I thought it was really beautifully written and I really enjoyed it, although it was a hard read at times because of the history that she is talking about. So I was really interested to read another one of her books. This, specifically, what makes me think it's going to work for this prompt is on the back it says, Chang comprehensively overturns the conventional view of Cixi as a die-hard conservative and cruel despot, and also takes the reader into the depths of her splendid summer palace. So this is a figure in history and a time in history that I know, frankly, nothing about, but I liked Jung Chang's writing style in Wild Swans, so I feel confident that I'm going to get on with how this is written, and then it's just going to be really interesting to just discover about a historical period that I don't really know anything about, and a figure who I don't know anything about. Those are all the books I'm planning to read. I feel like there's quite a lot of like history in this one. I'm obviously in a mood for it. But I would love to hear what you're planning on reading. I would love to hear ways that you've interpreted these words differently from me. Please do leave a comment down below and let me know. I am so excited to take part. If I have time, I'm going to squeeze in some extra non-fictions just for the fun of it. But I love Non-Fiction November. I love having an opportunity. I save books throughout the year that I think might work for it. So I'm really excited to take part. I hope if you are, that you also have a wonderful time. And if you're not, maybe look into it, see if it's something that you might like. That's everything from me for now. I hope you're having the loveliest of days, and I will see you next time for something different.